Welcome in. My name is Rosanna. I'm a healthy productivity fanatic, content creator, and project manager.
2024 was a roller coaster, a year filled with incredible highs and some tough challenges. I received a fundraising award for Movember, had to stop working due to intense treatment for my Ehlers-Danlos and fibromyalgia. I quadrupled the income for my own business in efforts to go fully independent. I traveled to the US, Aruba, and London, and I finally started working out again. And now it's January 2025, and it's time to figure out where I want to head with my life in the coming 365 days.
And so here we are, 2025 with a whole year of potential ahead of us. It truly feels like 2024 was a year of preparation, a year where I set myself up for success in 2025, which also happens to be the year that I turned 30. And unlike what society tells you, marriage, babies, buy a house, my 30th year will look a little different. So let's talk about my goal setting for 2025. But as expected, I need to take you to my workplace because I set my goals in Notion.
So welcome to my purpose dashboard in my Notion 2025 setup. If you're interested in seeing a full tour of my Notion 2025 setup, please make sure to subscribe to the channel as I'll release it in about 2 or 3 weeks. But today we're going to focus just on the purpose dashboard and specifically on the goals and milestones section. In my purpose dashboard, I also have all my habits and my journaling, which I will touch upon briefly, but I'll mainly focus on my goals, my goal setting process, and how I'm going to make sure that I'm actually achieving my goals this year rather than just setting them on day 1 and then forgetting about them on day 3. As you can see on the left-hand side, I have my yearly goals, and then on the right-hand side, I have my milestones. These are actually linked to each other, and I would love to walk you through how I'm going to use this dashboard, but also what my goals are for this year. So as you can see, I start with 8 different goals on the left-hand side. These are all a little bit more broad goals. They're almost like containers for which I have set more specific, more tangible, more smart milestones that I actually want to reach within that goal. So these goals, I know that sometimes like the terminology for goals and milestones can get a little bit confusing, but this is just how I'm using it. I know that my previous year goals video also looked a little bit different. So I would also like to talk to you guys about maybe some changes that I've made compared to last year and why I've made those changes, because it's definitely different. My goal setting process this year looked a lot different compared to last year. Last year, I kind of set the area as a part of my life. I was like, I want like private goals and work goals and, relationship goals. And I've kind of this year flipped that around, and instead of using the life areas, my goals itself almost define life areas, if that makes any sense. So like one is about relaxation, one is about my relationship, one is about my business. But instead of like splitting it up, because sometimes goals are just too related to each other. And I noticed that last year, that trying to split certain things up of like, I have my private goals and my relationship goals, but then there was so much overlap between them that it almost felt like I was keeping track of the same thing in 2 different places with 2 different types of wordings. So I was like, you know what? Let me bring that back in a way, kind of like simplify it almost. And also last year I had a lot of goals because my goals were almost more tangible and more specific rather than putting that in milestones. So I think also last year, my deviation between goals and milestones wasn't super clear for myself. And this year, I feel like I really kind of nailed that, at least better than I did last year. So for my goal setting process, something that I did is I made sure to, before setting any specific goals and like trying to figure out the wording and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I used ChatGPT. I was highly influenced by Anna Lenkowska. I'll make sure to link her channel down below if you do not know her yet. And she talked about how she set her goals, and she talked about using kind of like ChatGPT as your sort of objective conscious, if that makes any sense. So what I did is I used one of her prompts and I had a whole conversation with ChatGPT about my priorities in life, my preferences in life, my fears, my weaknesses, my strengths, and kind of like tried to train ChatGPT's memory that it actually knew me, quote unquote, knew me, of course, to be able to then use that kind of as a soundboard to kind of bounce ideas back and forth about this is where I want to head with my life in 2025. Can you help me kind of bring structure to that and then change that into goals? So the reason I'm telling you this up front is because you might see certain things in here that could make you curious about how I worded certain things or why my goals are the way they are. And that's definitely because I took a lot of time like sitting down with myself and reflecting, but instead of just using my own brain, which is obviously limited to the capacity that I have, using ChatGPT to kind of be my soundboard, kind of be my brainstorm partner, but without having that coloring of it being another person that might have opinions about how you should live your life. So my 8 goals for this year are creative growth and content creation. That's like the life area. And then establish a consistent and impactful content creation routine. We're going to dive into each goal like step by step, but I just want to like briefly walk you through all the ones that I have. That one is very focused on my business. Obviously, it's about content creation, but it's not necessarily about content creation as in like the money side of things. It's more or less for me to be able to do my job sustainably, to make sure that I don't burn myself out and that I continue to feel like creatively inspired. Then I have my joyful relaxation and creative exploration. Prioritize playful and relaxing activities that enhance my creativity and overall well-being. That's very focused towards the make sure that even though you have a creative job, that's not the sole creative thing that you do in life. Make sure that I have fun, that I do things for me, that I do things that like kind of revive my energy rather than drain it, because sometimes work, even though it's creative, it can still be draining, and I need to make sure to balance that out in the coming year. And the third goal is about financial stability, and that's achieving financial independence and freedom through my content creation. With that one, I'd like to preface that by saying that it's not necessarily financial freedom in terms of like how a lot of people talk about financial freedom of, you know, you can basically do anything in your life because you're financially free. It's more about being financially free from having to have a corporate job to sustain myself. Like being in the position that I can follow my passions without having to worry about, can I actually afford to follow my passions? Like I want to be able to be like a full-time content creator without needing to rely on a corporate job next to that to be able to pay my rent, basically. That's what I personally mean with financial independence and financial freedom. I know that financial independence and freedom on its own is almost like a whole part of the internet where people are talking about how to like be financially free and independent, like how to buy your first house at 22. That's not what I'm aiming for. I'm keeping it a bit more simple this year for myself, and it's simply to be able to sustain myself just from doing what I love, basically. Then I have my professional development, enhance my skills and network to support my career transition. And this is like kind of a peek into what you might have noticed in the intro, is that I kind of scratched out being a project manager. Unfortunately, due to my health, I can no longer be a project manager. It is a job that I love. It is a job that I hold very near and dear to my heart, but it also requires a certain type of energy. Specifically because I truly believe that as a good manager, you need to be focused on both people and result. And that requires so much of your energy to be able to do that, which is something that I was able to give for the past few years because I was healthy, or seemingly healthy, and because I wasn't struggling with my mental health. I wasn't trying to build a business right next to it. But at this point in my life, there are so many things that require my attention that I can no longer give that attention to my job, which I think is something that a lot of people notice as they get older. They sometimes have kids, they figure out their true passion in life, they realize that maybe they need to care for their parents, like other things in your life take priority over your career. And I feel like that put me in a position that I could no longer be a good manager. It would mean that I would start to do my job badly, and that's not something that I enjoy. It's also not something that is sustainable or good for the company that I was working for. So I'm currently in the process of trying to find a new job, whether that be full-time content creation, whether that be doing a different role in the company that I work for, whether that be something that I don't even know yet. I need to make sure that my skill set is going to actually support whichever decision I make. Then my fourth goal is reflection and growth, which is fostering a mindset of growth and reflection throughout the year. That is almost more a intention or like something that I want and something that I find important and that I don't want to forget, rather than a goal that I can at the end of the year, but like I can tick this one off. It is very much around, continuously journaling, reflecting on my life, making sure that I have like weekly reviews, making sure that I have like quarterly reviews of my goals. It's very much about giving myself that space to take a step back and reflect on my life. And I felt like if I don't put that as a goal, it's probably never going to happen. So let me make sure to add it to this list. Then the fifth goal is falling in love again. Heal my relationship through quality time and shared experiences. For anyone who's ever watched my Twitch streams or, seen any of my other content, you might know that both myself and my partner have some mental health struggles. This is completely okay and completely normal, but that does make a challenging relationship if you're both struggling at the same time. And for this year, I mainly want to focus on doing fun things so that we can kind of get back into that like giddy phase, you know, where you're just happy together rather than always focusing on supporting each other and like fighting your way through the day-to-day life together, because it's really important to have that like sort of playfulness back into the relationship again. So that's why I have that goal. I'll delve a little bit more into the milestones later. And then we have my final goal, which is holistic well-being. Or like a holistic well-being commitment to myself, which is cultivate a balanced lifestyle and space that prioritizes my mental and physical health. And I think this is almost like a transition of the goal from last year, where I had very tangible goals of like, I want to get treatment for my EDS and fibro, and I'm like, I want to have a Sunday off and like embrace my hermit life. And I feel like this goal is almost like, let's take those little steps, those first steps that I've taken to prioritize my own physical and emotional well-being, and let's translate that into like a lifestyle. Let's make that part of my day-to-day life rather than things that I'm like consciously working towards every single day. Let's make it a bit more of a routine as far as that is possible with having ADHD, because for me personally, brushing my teeth is not even a routine. Even though I've been doing it for 29 years, I still have to consciously make the decision to do it every day. It's the wonders of having a neurospicy brain. So now that we've actually walked a little bit through all my goals and you know a bit of what I mean with those goals, let's actually start diving into how I prioritize them, because they are not sorted in a random order. They are in this order for a specific reason. And then also let's talk about all the milestones and the steps that I'm going to take to actually reach them. So if you open my goal page, you'll see that you have the title, there's a progress bar, and there are some scores. And these scores are, again, very inspired by Anna Lenkovska's Notion template. I love the way that she set that up. To me personally, and to my mind, that just made so much sense that I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take inspiration from it. So what you can do is you can give your goal certain scores. So you can score how high the impact on your life is, which is basically not just like the short-term impact, but like if I do this, how big is the impact on my entire life going to be? Like my long-term, how important is this going to be? Then how much effort is it going to take to actually reach this goal? I think effort is a very subjective thing. It's going to really depend on like, what are your mental barriers? What are your challenges in life? Like for some people, establishing consistency is like extremely hard to do. I feel like I've already done 80% of the work for this goal. So for me, it's only medium, because I don't think that I have to do that much extra work to like get it to the level that I want to get to. And then the alignment with like your current life goals and your current like aspirations and passions, and also just your personality and your values as a person. Like how well does this align with all of that? And based on the scores that you give it here, it will give you a goal score. And the higher the goal score, the more like prominent it will be on your list. For me, all of my goals are pretty high, because if you open like my quote unquote lowest goal, you'll see that it has a 6. So it varies from a 6 to an 8. The main reason that this one scores a bit lower is because this one has a really high effort. So for me, having a holistic lifestyle where I'm like really committing to my own well-being is difficult. I find that a struggle, because I personally struggle to take care of myself and my emotional well-being. So that therefore this goal is harder and it will take more effort. Also, personally, I don't think it aligns the most with like my personality and my values, because I know it's important, but I've never been like an extremely like, I don't know, health obsessed sounds really negative, but it's just not really something that is really me. I've never been like that person that's super into fitness and super into like healthy, balanced diets and stuff. It's just, it doesn't really interest me that much. And that's not because it's not important. It's just a personality thing. So I really tried to be honest with my goals here, where I was like, okay, let me like truly look into myself and like, you know, reflect on who I am as a person and why a certain goal might align more. And I think because of the alignment being lower, it also takes me more effort to actually get there. However, the impact on my life, if I do this well, will be extremely high. Like it will benefit me for the long term for sure. So that's like kind of how I scored my goals, to give you a little bit of insight on that process. I'm not going to give you all the scores on every single one of my goals. You can see them as soon as I open the card, but I won't like delve into my entire philosophy behind it, because otherwise this video will take 5 hours. But that's kind of like, you can see my lowest goal score and my highest goal score. You can kind of see my thought process here with that. So let's go back to the first goal. And as you can see, there are some milestones that are related to this. So I have set a list of different steps as measurable as possible to actually reach this goal. So if by the end of this year, I have actually done all of these milestones, I can effectively say, yes, I have reached this goal. The progress tracker here is actually linked to my milestones. So if I change one of my milestones to done, you'll see that this one automatically updates to showcase how far I've actually reached that goal. Well, in this case, I'm not actually done with anything. I haven't completely finished it, but this will allow me to keep better track of how far will I actually complete this goal. So at the end of the year, I can also say whether I've reached a goal maybe for, I don't know, 60% or 80%, rather than just being like, yeah, I've done some steps and I think those were impactful and I think those were good, but I try to truly make it measurable, because one of the things that I actually learned through my chats with ChatGPT is that I don't necessarily thrive that much on external validation. Like I love to get recognition for my hard work, but I'm also okay with not getting it. Like I have a lot of intrinsic motivation for myself. However, I do really thrive on making that intrinsic motivation measurable, because it gives me that like release of dopamine of not only did I already want to do it, like I already had the motivation from myself to go do it, but now that I've ticked it off, I'm like kind of validating that intrinsic motivation that I already had with numbers. And that just is one of those things that will just keep me going. So that's why I was like, let me actually go through the effort of making my goals smart as possible, and then really truly trying to make them as measurable as possible. So that's the progress bar. There's also a couple of properties that you don't see, which are all related, like the goal scores and the total milestones, and the like. All of this is needed to calculate those. So if you get my goals template, it will be part of my 2025 setup. Let me know if you'd be interested in having like a full-on separate goals template. I know some people might be interested in that, but it is linked to some of my other databases, so I wouldn't be really sure how to release a separate goals template outside of my 2025 template, because everything's so linked to each other. But if you're interested, let me know. But all of those things that are hidden are basically there to just calculate these things. So that's why they're also hidden. You don't really need to see them. So then for my milestones, I have really tried to come up with steps that are tangible, smart, but also that I can kind of spread out over the year. I don't want to do everything in the first quarter. I also don't want to do everything in the last quarter. I want to give myself like a realistic to-do list, or like a focus area for every single quarter. Although there are certain goals that will span over the entire year. I'll show you that on the right-hand side of the template in a second. But basically, these are just all the steps that I want to take. I don't think I'm gonna go into every single milestone separately, because again, then this video would take forever. But I would like to highlight like a couple of things which you can see, or that like I've thought about in making this template. They're all listed here, so you can either view them from the goal perspective, or you can use the milestone side, which is like kind of behind my camera right now, but I'll show you that in a second. I have mostly made sure that you can see the progress here, so that you can quickly see for one goal, how are things going? Like, am I already working on things? Are there things that I haven't started yet? A lot of the goals for this one are in fact yearly goals, because like posting 75 episodes of my Sims Let's Play, that's gonna take me a whole year. That's not something I can do in a quarter. And I didn't really see the value of splitting that up into like releasing this many videos in quarter one, releasing this many videos in quarter two. The only thing that I know for myself is 75 is more than weekly. So I have been releasing weekly episodes. I would like to ramp that up somewhere this year to get to 75. Then like post 30 standalone videos on Rosannatxt, post 30 standalone videos on ELSWHERE. These are all just goals that I set to myself of like, how did I do in the past years, and how would I kind of like to improve on that, or how would I like to stay steady in that, because not everything is like an increase of how many videos I've posted last year. Like some of them are just exactly the same amount because I knew that worked and I knew that I could keep up with that. So it's not always like, you know, continuously adding more work for myself. Then something that I would like to highlight is posting 52 shorts, TikToks, or Reels about lifestyle on ELSWHERE. This is like a series that I would like to highlight here as well, because I'm doing something new, which I've never done before. And you can either follow along here on YouTube, on my Instagram, or on my TikTok. My Instagram name is, or my Instagram handle is Rosannatxt rather than ELSWHERE, because it's my main Instagram and I made it, you know, when I was just Rosannatxt. But basically what I'm doing is a series called The Unfiltered Life Diaries. And it's a series where I'll post at least once a week, potentially depending on what is happening in my life more than once a week, little shorts and snippets is basically like little vlogs of my life. And I did this because I wanted to really document my last year in my 20s, like my 30th year on this earth. And because I feel like 2025 is such a nice number, I was like, let me make sure to document this year for my future self, but also for other people to see that 30 doesn't have to fit into a specific box and that it can look like whatever you want it to look like. So that's my goal. That's my thought process behind this 52 shorts, TikToks, reels and stuff. And I would love it if you come along for the ride. So let me know in the comments here if you're interested in that. Let me know if you like seeing those videos here on Extra TXT, but also make sure to follow me on Instagram because adjacent to doing like reels and stuff, I might also try to do some more like informative or fun posts surrounding mental health, ADHD, stuff like that. I'm just really excited about Instagram this year. I feel like the whole culture and the whole vibe on Instagram is just so fun and so good that I definitely want to focus on that more rather than TikTok maybe. But TikTok is just going to be like, I'm also going to post the videos there. But I'm super stoked. I already have some cool sponsorships for those channels as well coming up this year. And yeah, it's one of those things that I feel really energized about. So let's see how future Ro later down the line, when I do my quarterly and yearly reviews, how she's going to feel about this, whether it's just an excitement of the first weeks of the year or if this is something that's going to like consistently be part of my 2025. And then as you can see below that, I have my related projects. So these are all things or like specific projects that I have in my Notion template that are linked to reaching this goal. So these projects are almost like even more specific, narrowed down steps compared to my milestones. I think this is one of the biggest changes that I made to the template compared to last year, where I linked everything to my goals. Like I had my goal and then there were like, you could link books and courses and tasks and everything was linked to my goals. And the reality kind of was that I linked some things, but not nearly as much as I should have linked, which was useful. And in this case, it was like, let me make sure that the translation from like goal/milestone to actionable thing is just one step. It's just a project. And if there's a single task that continuously adds value to my goals, it's more like a habit and it should be part of my habit tracker. And that's kind of like how I split things up rather than having, you know, the whole almost like cascade of, you know, goal, milestone, project, task, because it was a fun idea, but in reality, it didn't work for me. If it works for you, that's great. I know it is like a proven goal strategy that works for a lot of people, but for me, it was too much of a hassle. I didn't want to, with every single task, think to myself, how does it relate to my goals? Because that just didn't work. It wasn't practical. But with projects, I feel like projects are also things that you consciously have to think about. Like, am I gonna invest this much time and energy into this specific goal? And if so, is it like worth the time? Therefore, I think it is helpful to have the project linked. Projects in my 2025 template are also by far the most complicated database. I will talk about this in my entire Notion tour, but I have kind of decided that compared to last year, where I had a bunch of quite difficult databases, I wanted to simplify almost every database in my Notion, and everything kind of comes together in my project database, which means that my project database is a little bit of a nightmare database, but it works for me. I wouldn't say it's a bad database. It's just a very extensive one, which might be overwhelming for some people. But for me, it works to have like one complex space, but then all the other things feel very easy and like smooth going. Then below this goal, I actually have the little why, which this is very much written by ChatGPT. I was like, based on these goals and based about what you know about me, can you help me formulate a why for my goals? Like, can you help me in pinning down why this goal is so important to me? And I feel like this is not necessarily interesting to like write out or like talk about in this video always, because it sometimes also goes a little bit more personal. Not that I don't want you guys to know, but it's just not very useful to go into it in great depth. But I think this is going to really help me throughout the year if there's going to be a point where I'm like, I feel not necessarily burned out on a goal, but just not that motivated anymore. Or I feel a bit lost. Reading that why and understanding for myself again of like, okay, this is why I put this on my list, that's why I want to focus on it, is going to make a huge difference in me being able to reach it. And then I have a little space for notes, which is probably what I'll use when I do my quarterly reviews. And I want to look into, where do I stand on my goals? Like, what is it that I've noticed in these first 3 months of the year, or the second 3 months of the year? and how do I want to adjust from that? Or, sometimes I noticed with my previous goal setting, it was just nice to like write some things down of don't forget that you did this. When you come back to this goal, don't forget that you did this on this day. So I'm just going to use that note space to kind of just scribble some thoughts down whenever I'm doing my review so that at the end of the year, I don't forget how I was thinking about certain things in the beginning of the year. So that's the whole goals page. So now that you've seen all of that, let's actually dive into the side of the page that is all about milestones. And I quickly just moved my camera so you can actually properly see it. So what I've done is the milestones are split up in things that I have to focus on all year, things that I have to focus on or want to focus on in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And I think considering that I am going to do quarterly reviews on this channel, I'll also make videos about that. I'm just going to quickly focus on things that I want to do semi all year and like things that I want to do in the first quarter. So we're going to focus on things that I've already started because, we're already in the first quarter. Something that I find very important is that I want to set aside 15 to 20 minutes of time for meaningful conversation with my partner every single day. And I would like to say every single day, but I know that's not realistic because, we sometimes go on vacations, we travel and we don't see each other, which just doesn't really leave a lot of time for this. So I didn't want to put every day because I already knew that wasn't going to happen. But what I've done on the milestone is that you can see when it's planned for, what my status is. So if I'm already working on it, when I started working on it. So as soon as I change this, I'll actually update this date. And then once I've completed it so that I can also eventually see how long it took me to complete a certain goal, then I can see what goal it is related to. And I can see my progress. Which is linked to the two ones below. So in this case, 85% of the days results in 310 days. And then I have my habit tracker, which is actually part of my journal. So every single day I journal and I have a little habit tracker in there. And I can take a box of like, today, did I have time for meaningful conversation? Yes or no? And then based on this, I can very quickly see like, oh, for instance, time for meaningful conversation. I should update this to 7. Obviously, I won't update this every single day. I'll just sometimes come back to this template and kind of go through my milestones, probably specifically during my quarterly reviews, or maybe on my weekly reviews, I'll incorporate this as well. And that way I can actually keep the measurability of this goal very, very, very close to me and make sure that I'm actually reaching these milestones. So as you can see, I have a bunch that are already in progress. A lot of those are things like posting the 75 videos, posting the 30 videos, live streaming consistently, because those are all things that simply were already happening. And I just continued that routine out of 2024 into 2025. I refined it a little bit and now we're just working on it. And those goals will probably stay there for the entire year because unless I magically reach 30 standalone videos before the end of the year, then I can tick this off. But honestly, most likely this is going to take me all the way until the end of the year. And that's also completely fine. A lot of the goals that you see here are also related to habits. So that's why I think they are also all set to all year, because you kind of expect yourself to work on habits all year. But let's delve into quarter number 1, things that I will actually focus on for this specific quarter so that we can also get back to those as soon as I do my review at the end of this quarter. I want to get a diagnosis and potentially try out medication for my ADHD. I have my very first appointment with my psychologist next week, so I'm very excited about that. Unfortunately, in the Dutch healthcare system, when I asked for potentially trying out medication, they told me that they would love to set that up for me, but my diagnosis is so old, I got diagnosed when I was 12, that they want to make sure that I actually have ADHD, and therefore they want to re-diagnose me before actually potentially putting me on medication. And that also gives me the opportunity to look into other things, potentially things like autism, but also kind of get some more help in outside of medication. How can I, live my life more happy and, in a better headspace than I sometimes am right now? I want to complete a full digital declutter. I've actually started this. I don't know why I didn't change that yet, but that is immediately also linked to a project. So the project is not linked to the milestone itself. The project is actually linked to, I should actually put this a start date. I started that this week on Monday. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to declutter my spaces, my digital spaces. So like clean up my Spotify, clean up my YouTube follows, clean up my Instagram, clean up my camera roll, all those things. It is mostly linked to, I believe, the holistic lifestyle. So we can see here the digital declutter project, and that project actually has, all the tasks and stuff living in it, and, my whole plan and my whole timeline and everything. So that's kind of how I keep track of like the milestones, goals, stuff like that. At first, I wanted to link projects to milestones as well, but then I realized you can already see that this milestone is linked to a goal. So if I then also link the projects to the goal, everything comes together in the goal card, which just makes a little bit more sense for me personally. I want to dedicate time to redecorating my living space. That has actually started as well. It wasn't necessarily supposed to start yet, but the reason it already started is because we ordered some new furniture, which wasn't supposed to come in until February. But then last week, all of a sudden, our new table arrived. And next week, all of a sudden, our new bookcase is arriving. So this kind of kicked off earlier than I anticipated. But we're going to redecorate our living room and parts of our kitchen. We've been saying this for like 2 years. We've already redecorated the first part of our living room a while ago. I've obviously been transforming this studio. I made a whole video about it. I'll link it in the description box down below as well if you want to see the whole process of what it looked like before and what it looks like now. But for me personally, when we moved into this house, this is our first house together, we took a lot of old furniture that we already owned, and we also weren't really sure of our style yet. We weren't really sure of what we wanted our shared space to look like. So we went for a lot of like colder colors, a lot of older furniture, and our house never really felt warm. It never really felt like a home. It always felt like a house. So we've kind of set the goal for ourselves. We now understand our style much better. We really know, we have a vision for our house, what we want it to look like. And even though it's a rental home, we've decided to put in the effort to actually make this a home for ourselves. We already started that project, like I said, 2 years ago when we redid the first part of our living room. But now we've finally taken the steps to do all the other things we've been meaning to do and truly make this like a place for us rather than a space that was like two individuals kind of happening to live together, if that makes any sense. I want to make a list of activities that I want to do and actually take time to schedule them. That's very much linked to the fall in love again. Funnily enough, this is actually in progress because I started it last Tuesday. I was in the tram and I was traveling and I was like, you know what? Let me just get out my Apple Notes app and just start writing things down. I already had so many ideas living in my head of things I wanted to do this year, like fun little things, little date nights, or maybe even like bigger dates, or maybe travels and stuff. And we've been talking about, where we want to travel to this year, what we want to do together, our dates and stuff. So it's in progress. We haven't actually scheduled anything. We're mostly in the brainstorming phase, but I'm already really happy that we're like thinking about all the fun things we can go and do this year, basically. Then I had improved my graphic design skill, and this was part of the professional development and like enhancing my skills to support my career transition. Because at the beginning of the year, there was the potential that I would actually have to, or not have to, that I was actually transitioning into a graphic designer's role. Unfortunately, as you guys might know from the Unfiltered Life Diaries, this is not happening. I will not get that role, which means that this goal or this milestone is a little bit of a question mark. It really depends on my next step. There are still some things that I'm exploring, which I won't delve into too much right now because so many things are unclear still that I don't feel like I can really give you any like concise story about it. But I'm researching some options for which graphic design could still be a extremely useful skill to have. So I will probably still work on this. I'll probably still improve that skill because it also truly benefits everything that I do in my own business. But it isn't as important. I kind of expected myself to really go head first and just, become a graphic designer in the first quarter of the year, as far as that possible, of course, because I know it's a difficult job. But unfortunately, that isn't really happening. So we'll see at the end of this quarter where this goal is at and how that kind of evolved. I have the aim to become a Twitch ambassador. And for anyone who isn't aware what a Twitch ambassador is, I'll just do a really quick recap. A Twitch ambassador positively contributes to the Twitch community, from being role models to their community, to establishing new content genres, to having inspirational stories that empower those around them. These creators embody what it means to bleed purple. And basically, Twitch creators are selected by Twitch. They only select a handful of creators every single year. So in the year of 2023, you can see there were only 22 ambassadors selected. So this is a very hard thing to actually reach. But in 2025, I am aiming and I would love to become a Twitch ambassador because I have been loving my time on Twitch. I have been experimenting with my content a lot. I've been trying to really foster a space that is inclusive, that is a nice place to be for people, and that is like also educational for people that are trying to start content creation, that are trying to start live streaming. So my aim is to become a Twitch ambassador. So let's keep my fingers crossed that it actually might happen this year because that would be such a cool opportunity. My next one is releasing 4 new paid Notion templates. This is something that actually is not just showing up in quarter 1. You'll see that it shows up in quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. Instead of putting it on all year, I put it in every single quarter because I want to release a paid Notion template in every single quarter, if that makes any sense. So this quarter, it will be my 2025 template, which will be released probably in 2 to 3 weeks. And I would like to release a new paid Notion template every single quarter. This should be a template that I genuinely think will improve everyone's lives that's going to buy it. But Notion templates have been a huge part of my income as a creator for the past year, and I want to make sure that I don't forget about that income stream because it has been sustaining me for a really big part. So I want to make sure to continue to grow my Notion business over the coming year. Then I have a really fun goal, which is also part of my joyful relaxation and creative exploration goal, and that is building my first mechanical keyboard. I have already ordered my keycaps. I actually asked for parts for my birthday. I'm just still in the process of actually figuring out what exactly I want. Because it's a difficult decision, what parts I want to order. But in this quarter somewhere, I might do it live on stream. I might just do it for myself. But I really want to build my first mechanical keyboard. I've been obsessed with mechanical keyboards for the past 3 years, and I've never actually built one for myself. So that's going to be just a fun project for me. And then another goal or another milestone is reducing my admin work for my business. This is something that I have very much already done, but I'm still working on it. I'll continue to work on it throughout the entire first quarter. But basically also you can see the measurability here is set to 1 because it's a feeling. I'm going to feel when I've reached this. And as soon as I have that feeling, I'll just say, you know what? 1, bam, it's 100% reached. So not all of my goals are extremely measurable, and that's how I kind of figure that out. I could even, if I wanted to, put 0.5 here right now because I've already done most of the steps for this. I actually have a little project on the goal, as you can see as well, which is, let me see, content sustainability project. These were just thoughts that kind of came with me from 2024 into 2025 of things that I feel like I needed to change to continue to do things sustainably for my energy. These are mostly things where, as I've been growing as a creator, specifically on my Twitch streams, there were just certain things that were no longer sustainable to do. Manually doing a lot of things is just not something that you can keep up with forever as a creator. And I am very lucky to have grown to a point where I can no longer do them manually, but I really needed to figure out for myself whether I was going to stop them, whether I was going to try to automate them. And this is something that I think every creator goes through as they're growing their platforms, is every kind of growth spurt comes with growth pain, just like in real life, just like with, physical growth pain. There are things that you unfortunately have to let go. There are things that you unfortunately have to change that maybe you don't want to change, but you just can no longer keep up with them. And that's a really difficult reality of being a creator, is that you constantly have to adjust to that growth. But it is also why I'm extremely thankful that I am growing steadily rather than blowing up overnight, because I don't think I would be able to keep up with the changes needed if you blow up overnight. I think that would be very overwhelming. You would have no systems in place. And I think that's why a lot of people who do blow up overnight actually burn out really quickly. But I'm really, 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 really thankful for my not slow and steady, but steady growth, so that I continuously can adjust to the new place where I'm at. But that's why it is on my goals list, because I need to continue to do that. And then my last milestone for quarter 1 is actually making a best practice or a standard format for releasing Notion templates. Because right now, almost every single time I create a Notion template, there are certain steps that I forget. And then I'm like, oh no, I forgot that. Let me go back and retrace my steps. And I just want to have a little checklist for myself, a little process of, you're starting a brand new Notion template that you're going to sell. Do this, do this, do this. Have you checked this? Have you checked that before releasing it, so that I can more consistently release quality products with no mistakes in them, so that I don't have to go back and fix them, but also more consistently or more easily make sure that I'm not forgetting anything, that, things are going smooth. It will most likely increase the efficiency of my Notion business. So this is just something that I have to sit down for, how do I want to create, check, release, and market my Notion templates, because it can be a lot. It can be a lot of steps to have to keep into my little brain nugget, and I want to be smarter about that, basically. And then I would say, as a fun ending of this video, because we've now talked about my yearly goals and my milestones, I would like to show you the rest of the dashboard because for me personally, that's where my dopamine really comes in. So first and foremost, I have made a vision board, which is basically the visual representation of my goals. I can quickly make this a bit bigger so you can actually see it. You can see things like my house to a home, creative content, milestones, walks, cozy dates, fall in love again, traveling. These are all just like visual representations of what I want to do in 2025. This was the first time ever that I made a vision board. I've never done this before, and the process was actually really fun. I really enjoyed making this. And it also really helps me to see the fun and like see the almost like literally visualization of my goals and therefore make them more tangible in my brain. So I can highly recommend making a vision board. You do have to make sure that you know your goals prior to actually making it, but I've been really enjoying it. Then, as you can also see, I have made a little dashboard. So if you get my Notion 2025 template, I would like to warn you, I have been using a lot of the graphs, which if you have Notion for free, you only have one graph available. So I've been debating if I want to make a graph-free version of my Notion 2025 template. I might do that, but considering the graphs really genuinely add so much value to my Notion template, I haven't really been sure what to do with this. So let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on this are, because I'd love to get some input on whether I will for sure release it with all the graphs, but like how do I go about, you know, for the people that don't pay for their Notion, you only have one graph, which honestly is too little because graphs are so powerful. But as you can see, I have my milestones per goal, so you can kind of like see how many milestones are linked to each goal, which gives me a quick representation of how I'm dividing my energy. You can also see that I have 48 milestones in total, which some might say is a lot of goals for 1 year, but I think it is attainable. And then you can also see milestones completed per month. So as soon as I put something to complete it with a specific month as the completed date, it will show up here, which hopefully will kind of show me how I'm progressing through the year. And also looking back, you know, if I can review my journal and notice that at certain points of the year, I was extremely busy. I completed so many milestones, but I was also feeling really stressed, that I can take that into account for like my goal setting in the next year. Then I have my little journal, which is just, you know, it's my journal. I have like a little journal page. I'll dive more into depth for this one specifically in my Notion 2025 tour, because I don't think it's directly related to my goal setting. But then something that is directly related to my goal setting is my little habits dashboard. So this is my journal dashboard for all of my moods, so my emotions, my activities, and how I was doing. But then my habits dashboard, a lot of these things are linked to milestones and goals that I've set. So like working out, balancing a diet, have I actually drank enough water? Did I do my skincare? Did I get enough sleep? Did I take my vitamins? All of these things are linked to my little habit tracker and allow me to quickly see like, am I building the habits that I want to build in 2025. And then I also have my pain score, which is a score that I give daily. This is mostly linked to the fact that I'm chronically ill and I want to make sure that my pain isn't too bad. It gives me a good overview of also maybe like certain habits, how do they influence how I feel. And all of that will definitely play a part in my review of my milestones. Like I said, I have also added these little overviews, like exactly those same graphs to the page itself, so that when I'm reviewing this goal, I can see, you know what, I've done that 8 days. I can update that to 2%. Let's go. You can see how this hopefully all like clicks together and how I think that all of it, like kind of from the very big goal setting, like the overarching goals, to the milestones, to the projects, to my habits, hopefully are going to make 2025 my most intentional and purposeful year. I truly, genuinely believe that 2024 was that year of preparation with my rehab treatment, with my diagnosis, with, you know, like the whole like decision to stop project management, and also the whole decision of I'm really genuinely going to work towards full-time content creation, which potentially might lead me to being able to go full-time this year. I think those are all things like they were all setting me up for success this year. Let's hope that in 2025, I will reach all of my desired goals. I'm very excited to be doing quarterly reviews on these videos and kind of walk you guys through how my goals went in that quarter, what are all the things that I've done. But if you already want to follow along on a more week-to-week basis, like I said, please make sure to follow along either here or on my Instagram or on my XRTXT TikTok for the Unfiltered Life Diaries, because that's where I'll be giving like also more little snippets of thoughts and just like smaller things rather than a whole review video. I'll just provide all of those insights in little bite-sized bits. So feel free to check all of those out and follow along if you're interested. And if you're interested in following along in the quarterly reviews, or you want to see my full 2025 Notion template tour, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. I have heaps of fun content planned for this channel this year. And if you like this specific video, please toss it a cheeky like, comment your favorite emoji down below, or any thoughts you had on the video. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Let's go to a great 2025, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.